Two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. Didi, great to have you here. To start with, please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you spend your time doing.
Hi, Alan. It's such a pleasure to be here, such a joy. And how long would be my version about introducing myself? Okay, I'm gonna make it short. So my name is Didi. My journey to my work right now has not been linear, that's for sure. I was supposed to be a psychologist. However, my career took me to finance. So I worked in corporate finance for many years here in London until I read a book by an entrepreneur called Tim Ferriss, who wrote the book The 4 Hour Work Week. And it shifted completely my perspective of what life, building a beautiful life means. And then I shifted. When I had my son, I left corporate. I built my own school, my Montessori school, which took me back to the original plan of being a psychologist, actually, which I really loved. And of course, I qualified as a Montessori teacher so that just I'm on the same page with the team. And then after 7 years, I let go of my school. I wrote a book on awareness, which was my spiritual path that was taking over during my times running the school. And then now, after long time of contemplating what it would look like to open a secondary school and deciding that it's not for me in this stage of my life, I am hosting interesting conversation with curious people in beautiful places. And just recently, my latest one was on the future of learning, because education is one of my favorite topics, of course, spending so many years in that. And also because I believe that it really truly matters how we raise the next generation, which is basically the backbone of the society. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Wow. And I understand from our previous conversations that you've got one of these wonderful conversations coming up in New York in November. Is that right?
Correct, yes. So New York will be on the 10th of November and then another one in London. So these are beautiful conversations where I put together people from various backgrounds, let's say educators, parents, school principals, teachers, policymakers, entrepreneurs, people who are interested in education, and let's say they have ed tech companies. And the most important, which has been the biggest gift and as a feedback from everyone who was in the room back in June, young people. Because, like, I feel people don't usually include the teenagers in the conversation, and they're the people who should be part of the table. And this has been great to have them around and also including them in what it would look like to shape the future and how we can prepare young children for a future that we cannot predict. It's so new to all of us. What can we do to prepare them? And by the way, values are so important here, right? Like, values are what gives us the inner compass. So I'm very excited for our jamming today.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much that we could talk about without even drawing a card, because, like you say, education for young people will determine the future, right? So it's so important. Secondly, the the landscape now is so different than 20, 50, 100 years ago, and will continue to be more different as we go because of what you said about the uncertainty. And for me, that means that we can no longer rely on knowledge like we used to
Hmm.
as being central to everything because knowledge and learning is becoming transient. So the only thing we can rely on is values. And
I absolutely agree. It's such a great inner compass. It's the direction. It gives you the direction. It's not the destination. You
yeah,
still work on your destination, but it's the direction. And I think probably we had this in our chat with you. But like, I feel that specifically with values, because values have been very important in my own life, and I've been taken, especially in the past few years, a much more conscious approach, aware approach to values. Because people value things without knowing that these are the values that they have, right? So
yeah,
most people don't at all sit down to identify what is their value. But when once, and I always say that to people, once you sit down actually and decide consciously to explore what you value and consciously to decide what you would like to choose as a value that you can practice in the future, it's practice that that it's necessary, right? Then you can have this inner compass working for you and making your life so much easier because your decision making, we take thousands of decisions every day, it's simplified. You just have the inner compass, your values that tell you how to do it. It's just people are not aware of it in general, and it's favorite topic of mine.
Well, I mean, because it's a favorite topic of yours, I'm going to take the liberty of sharing this book.
Mm.
So, my 31 practices is about how do you identify your five core values? How do you then translate each of those five values into six concrete, observable behaviors?
Wow.
And then how do you consciously practice one each day? So the reason it's called 31 practices is because there's no more than 31 days in a month. You consciously practice one practice each day. And the neuroscience is that repeated conscious practice embeds the behavior. And then by definition, you're living your values. So we must dive into that deeper sometime.
I will for sure check it out because like I think this is the missing element for most people. I see so
Yeah,
many people, even companies, right? You've been in corporate, I've
yeah.
been in corporate. It is these are my values, these are the values that we have, and they put them on the wall, and then how do you practice it? Like, can I see that in my day-to-day work if I'm working there? And specifically, I remember with my school, I was so clear on my values when I built the school because I wanted this to be the place that never existed, like this beautiful place where where the children flourish and where the respect is really at high end. So I had four values for my school, and every time at a staff meeting with my team, we actually go through the values. That was the thing, and we will be you see when they bring a challenge or a very difficult situation at the table, let's say difficulty between a parent child or something's going on, I'm like, let's go back to the values. So how does this fit our respect value or our excellence value or our growth value or our love value? And everything became so much easier because then you're like,
Does.
I get it, then that's it. And I'm just going to share that for everyone out there who is listening to it and probably is running their own business. I used to believe, because I was so obsessed with my values at every staff meetings, that I was feeding at every staff meeting that I was thinking everybody who works in any company, they need to believe in the values. Like they need to accept these values. They don't have to actually. I read something long ago. They don't need to agree with them. They don't need to actually believe in them. They need to practice them if they choose to work there. But there is no point of us spending so much time of selling them the reason why this value exists.
Totally agree.
So that was like a mistake I had because I'm like, no, they have like people have to see the value of the value. It's like, no, as long as they practice it and they know that it's the measurement stick, it's kind of fine, but you don't have to convert them. So this is being
Yeah.
non-judgmental and not oppressive in any ways. But
And you talked about the values being on the wall. Again, you won't know this, but it's become a signature phrase for me, which is values are for living, not laminating.
mm,
Because, what's the point of just putting it up on the wall? And I was so pleased to hear your story about your staff meetings. I'm going to tell you two stories. One is from a corporate environment, and the other from a personal environment. So the corporate environment, I've never found out if this is true. It might be one of those urban myths, but it's a company allegedly in the north of England, and one of their values is trust. And you were in finance, it's a board meeting, and they're approving the capital expenditure for the coming year.
mm,
And one of the line items is, clocking in and clocking out technology to where you know whether people are on site or not on site.
yeah.
So they had a line item, this technology, £1 million. And one director said, hold on a minute. Our value is trust. It doesn't feel like clocking in and clocking out technology is aligned with our value of trust. And they explored it. And if the story is true, they decided not to spend that money and to spend the money somewhere else. And the reason I share the story is because, like you were saying about your staff meeting, unless you use the values consciously in that way, they will
They won't.
remain as just a picture. And then the personal story, I was telling somebody about my 31 practices at a meeting in London, and I use this example a lot. And I said to them, so for instance, if one of your personal values is compassion, you might decide that you're going to offer help to a stranger. That's a very concrete, tangible way of translating your value into behavior. And the way that it works is that if that was your practice today, you would read your practice out to yourself and set yourself up for the day so that when an opportunity arose, you're more ready for it to jump in. So I had that meeting. I came out of the meeting. I was on my way to another meeting and I was running a little bit late. Do you know Victoria Station in London?
Yeah, of course. It's
Okay, so I was
very
walking
close to
through.
it.
I was walking through there. I don't even know why I saw this or noticed this, but an elderly lady had her these purses that are kind of quite deep and then they have a clasp at the top.
Mm.
So
Yeah?
she was going like this and she pulled and some coins came out
Mm.
and they're all on the floor. So imagine me going through to catch my train. I'm late for a meeting. I just couldn't continue my journey. I went to help her and I said, "Can I help you pick these up?" And she said, "Oh, I hope you're going to give them to me back." And I said, "Yeah, I'll give you most of them." We, we had such a lovely conversation, and I walked off feeling brilliant. I got to my meeting on time as it was, but the power of that was because I had just told that story to somebody in my head, I couldn't walk by it. So that's the
Mm.
power of when you consciously set yourself up to do something and then you get a good vibe from when you do it, you're encouraged to do it again and again and
And
again.
again, again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just this story made me think about something though, which is deviation of our conversation, but it's just made me think about the fact that sometimes, people don't choose their values consciously if they haven't done the exercise, right?
Yeah.
And let's say I'm taking an example of something that it happened to me years ago, but like, let's say in general, I'm a server. Like I love serving people. I love taking care of people. It's not something that I consciously chose. It's something that has been my blueprint for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
And sometimes this can conflict with the value that I can choose, which could be self-care or self-love or something else,
Yeah.
which can be the conscious choice, which means I need to basically deviate from something that I do as a blueprint and, without any evaluation, like your compassion, like you stop because you chose it or because that's who you are. And then sometimes it can conflict with something else that you choose to be. So it's just a mental note I made of, oh, how interesting how sometimes maybe the values that we practice are values that we have not
Yeah.
examined. And it's
Yeah.
the power of examination, right? Like for me, that's why awareness is where freedom and choice lies, because without awareness, you don't know. You'll just be doing things and they cannot be the right things for where we are at this stage of our life.
I love you flagging that because for me, there are too many people that operate in the values space that make out that values is this kind of heaven. It's
Mm.
all roses and beauty. Values are wonderful. Whereas I think of values more as like a handrail to guide us through a messy life. And like you said earlier, it just makes decision making a lot easier.
Easier.
And two things to what you were saying. I prefer to not use the word conflict, and I
Mm.
use the word compete instead.
Mm.
So I think of those two as competing for attention, not really conflicting.
I love that.
And then the second, you've reminded me, I was on some sort of webinar or something. There were a lot of people. There were more than 400 people on this call, and a guy asked the question about conflicting values. And I like telling stories rather than talking in theory. And so I asked him to imagine a guy who had a partner and a newborn child and had two core values. One was peace and the other was family.
Mm.
And then I asked him to imagine that this guy was unemployed. So he's not got a job, no money, family to feed, and he's offered a job in an ammunition factory. So he believes in peace. So this is really not the sort of job that he wants. But in terms of competing, he goes through a thought
Mm.
process and rationalizes that he will work in the ammunition factory because he needs to feed his family. But for every hour that he's not working, he'll be trying to find another job because he hates working in the ammunition factory
Mm.
because peace is one of his core values. So I think that's a really easy way to understand how your values can
Absolutely.
compete, but it doesn't matter. As long as you go through the process and make your choice, then you can be comfortable with that.
Exactly, which is again the awareness that you actually have the choice to make, because
Yeah.
most people wouldn't even know that that's the thing. That's why I'm really interested to put my hands on your book, The 31 Practices.
I'll send you a copy. It's a bit old. It's published 10 years ago now. And actually I've created an AI companion guide to help you do the process so much quicker and also better because obviously AI knows much more than we do. And I've had two examples. One lady on a Zoom call like this, we did her draft 31 practices and she just started to cry. And she said, "This is the person I want to be." And that was like, whoa. And then the other one, and somebody else, part of the process is to identify a quotation that you attach to each of your practices as part of the reinforcement. And it was I can't even remember what the quote was, but somebody else said, "Oh my God, that quote by Rumi is just perfect for my practice. And how many years would it have taken me to come across this?" And so the AI may we'll talk about it separately, but maybe if you're interested to do it, I'll take you through the process, help you
Mm,
create your set of 31 practices, see what you think. But for
mm.
now, we're going to choose a card.
Yeah, let's do that. You know that I have your set, right?
Well, do you want to use your deck
I'm
or mine?
actually happy to use yours. It's
Uh,
like, let's keep it fun.
so how many piles would you like me to make in front of me?
Four.
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 Okay, you knew that number before I even asked you.
I love the number four.
Okay. So does that mean pile one on my left or pile four on my right or something in between?
Pile four on your right.
Right.
Yeah, my
Okay.
left. Yeah.
And so now we have 4, 8, 12, 15 cards. Which number? Is it going to be four again?
I was about to say four, but then it's not going to be that fun. Uh, how many cards do we have? 15.
15.
Ooh, card number 15 is the 15th of
Card number
July.
15. Ooh, now I wonder what you'll think of this.
Ooh, efficiency.
Yeah.
Talking to an efficient girl or lack of efficiency. Okay, I love that. Okay,
So
efficiency.
come on, give me a bit of insight into that initial reaction because you said you're talking to an efficient girl or not an efficient
No,
girl.
I have a reaction to certain words. So words are so important to me. I'm very careful. When you said about conflict and competing, I'm like, of course. I mean, conflict, it's not a word that I always love. I love in general, but I'm in general very, very particular and careful with words. And of course, running a school, you can imagine, what are the words that we give to kids. And there are certain words that I dislike, not hate, but they're kind of, and efficiency is probably one of those words. That's why when I saw it, it's like, ugh, efficiency. Because why? Like, I'm trying to think why would that be the reaction? I feel it's because I'm trying so much I'm doing it, it's not trying, but in the past, let's say 6, 7 years, I'm living so much from a better place of presence and surrender and trust and believe that things can effortlessly flow versus just hustle and do things and put effort in it. And efficiency sounds a little bit like this word of you need to be efficient, or efficiency means like you need to figure out the quickest possible way to preserve the most energy in order to achieve something. So kind of in a way, I have probably slightly negative reaction to the word. That said, I love efficient things. So I don't know why, I would have this reaction because I would normally love, of course, things to run efficiently. In my business, of course, I wanted things to run efficiently. I just feel that I don't want to trade off efficiency for presence and for alignment, let's put it that way.
I'm with you, by the way. So I'm not a fan of the word efficiency either. And while I was listening to you, I was just trying to think why for me. And efficiency I associate with machines.
Mm.
And I don't think of it as being particularly human. And a bit like you were touching on, I tend to think of if people are focused on efficiency, that disregards humanity or the human aspect of it. And maybe that's an unfair view of mine. So let's start by asking a very simple question, and there's two levels to it. The first is more technical, so it's what does efficiency mean? And then the follow-up question is more imaginative. So when you think of the word efficiency, what images come to mind? What feelings come to mind? And what sounds come to mind? And you can start with whichever you prefer.
What does efficiency mean?
Yeah,
Um, it's just doing something to the best possible way, preserving the most energy, and so that it achieves the quickest, better, more productive result. That's how probably I would define efficiency. Um, but also, like I'm thinking, I would say about something, is it efficient? It means that does it do the work properly? Like in a way, it's also very positive, right? Like, is it efficient to do that? So, yeah, it's interesting how we have certain feelings towards a word. It brings up something in us. It triggers something in us. So let's put it that
yeah,
way. In terms of how does it feel, you asked, and sound?
yeah. So when you think of the word, what sort of images come to mind? What sort of sounds come to mind? What sort of
Oh,
feelings come to mind?
definitely it comes to mind not the human part. It comes to mind the machine part, the automated part, the
Right,
corporate part.
right.
Um, So it's kind of disconnected from the human biological part, although if we think bodies are efficient, right? Or mostly when they're healthy or efficient, still I don't see it that way. It took a different reputation, the word specifically. So that's how what does it sound? Ooh, a sound of efficiency. It's like machines stamping something. I don't
Okay,
know. Going back in the time when there were so many, machines taking over manual labor, like I would imagine it's something like that. That that
okay.
that comes to my mind.
So on sounds, I what popped into my head immediately was an electric car. You know that sound
Mm.
that yes, zzz,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Feelings for efficiency. I'm left quite cold. It's like okay, it works. That's fine.
So
Um,
interesting, Alan. Think about it. So interesting. Like, are
yeah.
we not striving for efficiency and yet it leaves us
Well,
cold?
there's a couple of other things as well that have come into my mind that I'd like to explore with you. So, one is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, because something can be efficient
And not
but
effective?
not effective,
True.
and so there's no value in that, or not as much value in
Mm.
that. And then the other reason why I've got a bit of a downer on efficiency is my background is commercial hospitality management. And so when I think about, say, a hotel arrival, I've got a stereotypical, maybe Germanic, efficient style where you arrive, everything is done super fast, very accurately, but there's no feeling there. And you
Mm.
compare that with somewhere else in the world, where would I choose? Somewhere like Bali, where maybe they've made a spelling mistake on your name, they've got your departure date wrong, but the person has got such a big smile and deals with it so beautifully that you don't care. You're just delighted to be there. So yeah, so that's part of the reason why I've got a bit of a downer on it.
I wonder what company, what industry and type of company would choose efficiency as their value. Because you're right, it's different than efficacy. So, but still, it's a value out there that companies or people can choose.
Well, I think an example might be, Vorsprung durch Technik.
Mm.
Audi strikes me as being reliably
efficiency.
on efficiency. Yeah, it's like that's what we're all about. It works. Um, but then also, like you were saying, we do like our, well, many people like their lives to be efficient, and I'm really a bit too far on this sometimes. So, for instance, if I drink hot water, not tea or coffee, but if I put the kettle on to boil the water, I don't just stand there for like 90 seconds. I do something in that 90 seconds because I think to myself, well, if I didn't make use of that 90 seconds and I repeated that 100 times during the day, I could be doing something I really enjoy doing with that time rather than not. So that's a love of efficiency, which doesn't really fit with having a downer on it.
Yeah. I think we have both, right? Like we cannot be black or white on something like that. And efficiency is so much more supported nowadays by AI. Like think about it,
Yeah.
how much more efficient we are just so because we have access to all these beautiful models out there that potentially makes us more efficient if we use it right. I don't
Yeah.
know whether they make us more present or give us this space for more time to actually focus on something else, which is better, like your 90 seconds where you're like, I can do something else, something more joyful. Like it feels that we are on a roller coaster of we're more efficient, so let's even become even more efficient and let's even do more. So I'm not sure how it helps, but in a way, it really truly supports.
Have you got a story, an AI story of efficiency? That would be good to
Oh
hear.
my God, yes, of course. I mean, I don't think so you know about the event I organized, the Future of Learning.
Yeah.
I put this event in 3 weeks, like literally 3 weeks, and I had 50 people, and it's not full-time working on it, and I'm one person doing it all because I didn't bring a team into that. And it was just an experiment. And yet, if it wasn't for Claude, as a supporting model, starting from the web page, which was completely designed by Claude, I didn't have to go to my web designers. Starting from name tags and from the ideas of how can I make it pretty, because beauty is one of my values recently. So I wanted
Okay.
to have, instead of the usual name tag that most conferences or events have, I wanted this silk ribbon around the neck, and designing the name tags, which took me just an hour versus many, many hours going back and forward to other people, setting up the printing documents for the programming and the names of everyone, reorganizing the names based on, their alphabetic order, and all the information collected for the people so that they can have their bios there. These are things that I was so much more efficient. It took me like few hours versus many, many, many more hours, and going back and forward. And these days, specifically, I've been exploring the new model that Claude was launching called Fable, which
Okay.
is free until Sunday. By the way, I literally made a Instagram story yesterday to everyone. Please go and test it, because what it did was it took my whole it did inventory of my computer. So I have about, I don't know, 80,000 files in the last 15 years on my computer, reorganized it completely, put it in different labels, found out so much because I used to journal a lot on my computer. I don't do that since ChatGPT came 2 years ago. So kind of there's some gaps there, but I'm exporting everything from ChatGPT. I can put it into Fable and through Cowork. It reorganizes everything on the background. I didn't have to do anything. Then it went from my notes. I have 2,560 notes. It came out with frameworks that are already there, content that I've been writing for so long, and it's already there, organized it in different ways. It went from my journal, told me my patterns, things that I still avoiding, or I'm not efficient. I'm not efficient. Like there's these things that you can be much more efficient if you do that, now that I think of it. And so many other things. It was just crazy. Yesterday, I was just testing, can you go through LinkedIn? Because I'm not really a heavy user of LinkedIn. I'm starting more now. I used to be in corporate, then I switched to YouTube. So I built my YouTube channel on parenting. I grew it many years ago, and then I kind of left LinkedIn on the side. But now with the Future of Learning, I went back to LinkedIn. And because of my event, there were people mentioning my content somewhere, and I was like, can you go through my LinkedIn, figure out who mentioned me and where, and draft responses and post the responses after I say yes, of course. So just to see how it does it. And it went and it says, this person commented 3 days ago, this person commented 7 days ago, this person commented 1 day ago. These are the drafts. And I've been trying to use, because I published my own book a few years ago, and I love writing when it doesn't come easy sometimes, because you think you have something to write about, and then you sit down and you're like, really? I mean, it really humbles you to realize that it's an idea in your head until you actually sit down physically to write it. But I never liked how Claude or ChatGPT write. And no matter how many times I would try to do my LinkedIn or something, it doesn't nail it. Whereas this time, it wrote something. Let's say, because I have so much information on my computer, files for 15 years, it knows my language, it knows how I talk, it has my disc profile, human design profile, all my vision days that I've been working on. In a few hours, it got access to it and analyzed it. So when it wrote something, it was me. And I'm like, oh my God, for the first time, I can see you writing like me. And it says, because I'm not writing anything, I'm just taking your words.
Yours.
Like I can reference everything you said. And many years ago, I started a book to write a book on parenting. So I have like apparently 13,000 words written because it tells you
It's
how many
amazing.
words you have for anything. And I'm like, maybe you should revisit that. And I'm like, wow. And now if I want to, let's say courage is a great value of mine. I love courage. I think courage is necessary for people living rich life. And I think it's one of the values that everybody at a certain stage should adopt and embrace and practice, because it's a lot about the practice with courage. But let's say I was testing it. Let's say if I want to write a Substack about courage in childhood or something, it literally pulls out from everything I've written thousands of words. Only my notes had 870,000 words. This is close to a million. You cannot do that without
No.
Claude. So I highly recommend it to everyone. And for me, it's like, wow, am I efficient? Yeah. Did it make my life easier? Oh my God, yes. Am I scared? Sometimes yes, because I love humans. I love humanity. I love the rawness and the imperfection of humans. And this strive for being more perfect and quicker and more, more with AI, it kind of competes, not conflicts, competes with my other beliefs about humanity. But I also know that it's bringing so much good into the world if it's used right. And I just want to share this story. Many years ago, after corporate, when I was thinking, what's my next business? Because I was on maternity leave. At the time I was working for AEG, I was like, there is no chance I'm coming back. This is my opportunity to actually make it on my own. One of my really good friends, she's still my friends, she developed this huge business that they sold subsequently, but they built it on YouTube. So they built their YouTube channel and they were selling hair extensions at the time, like multi-million dollar business. And she told me go to YouTube in order to sell your product, because I created a baby feeding product, because I was thinking, what's my problem right now? Let me work with that.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2014, 15, when the online products, informational products were huge. So I'm like, let
Yeah.
me create my own product. I created my own product. I still sell it, by the way, on Udemy. That's the power of something concrete, that it's timeless. But she kind of encouraged me to go on YouTube and create my own channel at the time. And I was thinking, oh my God, I always wore a mask in corporate in a certain way. You swipe your card, you get, especially I worked in finance, 85% men, and then this environment where everybody is kind of serious. And suddenly I need to smile and say, hi, parents, this is what you do. It was such a cringe, trust me, for quite some time. But I was telling you this story with the reason. What was the reason?
So you were talking about when you were deciding to set up your business, your friend told you to do this because of the success she had with her hair
Yeah, but there was a
extension.
really interesting point I wanted to make there, and now I lost the track. Anyways, it will come back to it. But there was something about
Courage, you were talking about before.
hmm?
Courage, you were talking about before.
Yeah, I mean, courage. Yeah, courage is one of my favorite practices, because in order to practice any other value, most of the values, let's say honesty. So many people embrace honesty as a value nowadays. You can say honesty is my value, but if you don't have the courage to be honest when it's hard, you can you can't actually be honest. So I feel that courage is one of these things. I think Aristotle used to talk a lot about that in his virtues, because courage is a virtue, and he would have, from left to right, the lack of courage is cowardice, having too much courage is recklessness. So it's always good to be in the middle. But in a way, courage is what feeds other values. If you want to, justice
Yeah.
is your value, or fairness. Can you be fair if you don't have the courage to stand up for the things that you want to be fair for, right? So it's kind of courage. Like I see courage as a separate thing that basically feeds, is fundamental for feeding our life and making us act and exercise and practice our values.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think for me, there's a connection back to efficiency here. And it's during this conversation, it's been bugging me why I can't nail why I've got this not such good impression of efficiency. And I think part of it is to do with courage, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. That's why you need the courage, right? So if you're practicing fairness,
Mm,
and to be fair, you've got to upset a good friend, you need courage to be able to do that if you're going to live the value of fairness. But it strikes me that if you shy away from being true to being fair and you let your friend away with it, over time, that's going to catch up with you.
mm.
And so, actually, being true to your values and having that courage in the long term makes things more efficient than in the short term it might seem the case because you've got less hassle, but actually in the long term you would have been better
Of course.
having more courage. So I'm starting to wonder whether that's something to do with efficiency. Efficiency is all about the known. If I put this in, I'll get that, the machine and da da da. Whereas nature, for instance, in its own way, is very efficient. It's just that you don't actually know what's going to happen next some of the time.
Mm.
Um, now, in
And you're okay with that though. Like think about it. You're
yeah,
okay with that in things that are not structured or humanly structured. Let's
yeah,
put it that way. You kind of let go of all these things that are beyond. But with the things that you feel you have control over and you can set up in a certain framework or structure, you expect this efficiency to be there, right? Or you not expect, but you at least why not do it? Let's say I run my own school, you run your own business. Like, why not strive to be efficient when you can without compromising on everything else that can compete with efficiency? And if it's your value, like definitely my values of respect to the child in a certain situation can compete with efficiency right now, for sure. But then for everything else, maybe you can apply that and it makes your life better and easier.
yeah, and I think this is we're getting closer to it now because what you just said, I think it's really important that, of course, it's not to say that efficiency doesn't have a role to play. Yes, it does, but it's not the be all and end all. So
Mm.
maybe it's something about we want. I use the phrase return on effort. So we want the best return on effort. That put the little effort in and the maximum return out is a good situation. That's efficient. But if doing that is going to compromise something that's more important to you, then it's not worth doing. So it's about efficiency not being put on a pedestal and just treated as in a more pragmatic way, perhaps.
Or isolated in situations where it's really necessary. Like now it's the
Yeah,
World Cup, right? Like, do you
yeah,
expect Bellingham to be, efficient player or the players to be efficient and to use their strength and energy efficiently? I mean, it can make or break things. So definitely it's something to apply in the right environment when you consciously know that, wow, efficiency is really needed here. And it's a priority versus something else.
yeah.
Again, going back to awareness and actually knowing what we are doing most of the time and practicing it in the environment or in the situations where we know it matters.
And this situational thing, you've just made me think of where did I go when you started to talk about efficiency in the situations, I thought of leadership, and
Mm,
then I thought of an emergency situation.
right?
And I've been in situations where, as the leader, I needed to just be very clear and tell people what they needed to do in order to deal with the situation that was in place. In another um, situation, it was a question of what do you think? What are the options? Let's discuss this together. Let's agree next week what we're actually going to do.
Mm.
But you can't do one or the other all of the time. And so what you were saying about efficiency being maybe it's one of the most situational words.
Exactly. Like now we are getting closer to something that feels more
Mm,
aligned. True, yeah, because we definitely need it in certain times. I definitely need it. Like when I think about my own patterns or how I show up sometimes, I'm not efficient. I know I can do better, and yet there is so much wasted time. This is a completely different conversation because is anything wasted ever? But like if we just keep it
but
practically in our day-to-day life, yes, it's wasted time. So you want to be more efficient. You
but
know,
it's not,
yeah, tell me, Helen.
I was going to say, Didi. So this is this point that I was maybe I didn't explain it very well earlier, but for me, it's this big difference between relying on the known and being willing to be open to the unknown.
Mm.
And maybe if you're using the known as your paradigm, then there is a waste of time because you don't know what the output is going to be. But if your paradigm is the value of the unknown, it's, well, if I spend this time talking to this person, who knows what might come out of it? And often it does, right? So, in that way, the unknown can sometimes be a whole lot more efficient
Oh
than
yes,
the known.
yes. I know that's the thing though, because even going back to let's say my trip last week, I went to Ireland, I
Yeah,
drove there. You're not striving for efficiency in things like that. Do I want a more efficient car? Not necessarily. I'm there to wonder, to be surprised,
yeah.
to go through the flow and be surprised by the events that happen or the viewings. It's efficiency, it's not necessarily needed there. And so differently, if I go to an event, let's say, and I want to rent a car and I know that I need to get there exactly on time. I wanted a more efficient way to get to a certain place. But in general, yeah, it's interesting because I don't feel I would normally sit down and think about efficiency. I'm even going back to my business now when I was running my school. Was efficiency I think actually it was there without naming it. Of course, you strive for that when you create a structure and operational manual and you create a framework for people to follow so that it makes it quicker and easier and spends less energy. Of course, you care about your team and you care about these things. So I think I didn't name it. Of course, I strove for it, but I didn't name it. That's the thing.
And there's something else there as well, because one of the things I love about efficiency is that it means that you minimize waste. And so if we're talking about time, if you're not wasting your time doing things because you forgot to do something ahead of time, that means you can do something that you really love doing. So in that way, efficiency is hugely valuable. And I was
Mm,
telling you earlier about birthday trips with my children. Jack, my eldest son, the other day sent. We were talking about next year, and he sent me a message, and it said something like, "What I really enjoyed about this year's trip was the whole experience." And then it had like dash, some of it planned, some space for the unplanned, and
mm.
it's that combination. So with your trip, if you hadn't booked the car, you would have been stuck, right? So you needed to be efficient, but that gave you the freedom to just be out where you wanted to
Wonder.
be.
Yeah. It always makes me think about Montessori. She was brilliant in the way she observed children and pinpointed to the fact she observed and people say she created the framework, but it was actually her observing for so many years and coming up with what she saw. She talks a lot about freedom within limits. Freedom is kind of a big worry of mine, but what is freedom within limits? Exactly what you say. In a way, it's great to have the freedom, but if you are walking on a very high bridge without the hand railing around, imagine you have the whole freedom, there are no railings, there is no something that
Definitely.
limits you.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take you to cross from here to here
Yeah.
versus if you have the limits that help you get there? So that's a
Fantastic.
beautiful way also to look into it. I know that we're going towards the end of our amazing
We are.
session. We can talk for so long. Just a quick question, because I know you're launching soon the Value Jam Junior.
That's right.
And yeah, just what has been surprising for you when you're building this experience for, I mean, I'm interviewing you here, but I'm so curious for what you've done. The most surprising thing that you came across when you're creating such an important deck for kids and playful and fun, I would say.
Well, thanks for mentioning it. We do have one more final question that we need to deal with, so I'll answer this quickly, and then we'll do that final question. Um, I think the beginning of the story was the most surprising thing for me, which was when I played this Values Jam deck with my grandson Jacob, who was 5, and I wondered how I would be able to play it with him. So I decided how to do that. And so I said to him, Jacob, I'm going to read you the names of these 60 cards, and you need to tell me either you know the word or you don't know the word. And we're going to make 2 piles of cards. So he agreed to that. And he kept his concentration all the way through, which was a bit of a surprise. I didn't have to, you know, encourage him or anything like that. We just went straight through it. The pile of cards that he knew were a bit smaller. And so then I went through those and got him to force rank. So it was, Jacob, which would you prefer, excitement or family? And he would have to choose one. And then we worked the way through the deck. His
Hmm.
final favorite 3 cards were love, kindness, and beauty.
Hmm.
And then I asked him to choose one of the 3. He chose love. And I asked him, can you explain what that means? And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, no, I can't explain it. And then I said, that's fine. But tell me, what do you do for people that you love? And he said, I give them a hug. And at that moment, I thought to myself, Values Jam Junior has to be, because if he can play with this version, and then I really enjoyed. I think you've seen the pitch deck. So each of the values words is personified by
Hmm.
a little cartoon character and associated with musical instruments, and they've got phonetic names which are aligned to the musical instrument and the value word. So Bruno stands for bravery and is playing the bugle, for instance. So it gives the children all of these hooks to be hanging on. Um, and also, just yeah, final. I said I was be keep it short, but the final thing is, I really am looking forward to how this will help children to practice skills like listening and curiosity that we're not really teaching them so much. We teach even in organizations, we teach people how to present their
Hmm.
opinion. We don't teach them how to listen to somebody else's opinion, and
True.
so that was a bit of a blur.
Mm,
But I'm looking forward to sharing with you. The website page went live yesterday, and they're going in production. I think tomorrow they'll be here in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll be able to have a look at a deck. Maybe we could meet in London.
that would be amazing,
Now, the
Kyle.
final question I have is,
Okay.
um, what are you encouraged to do differently about efficiency as a result of our conversation?
Hmm. I definitely want to explore my own triggers around efficiency. Why are they there? Because I'm very reflective. I'm very curious about things like that. And what do they open up? And what are the stories we make in our heads? And are they necessarily stories that serve us? Um, As I said, I feel that I became so much more efficient with the help of AI these days. And because learning and growth and expansion is one of my values, I very much embrace new experiences like that. I'm not afraid to be a beginner, obviously, with my career path, a few times a beginner. I probably will sit down and see in what ways I can incorporate that in my life and whether it truly competes with something or I made a story in my head. Because that's probably the interesting part for me. Is there a story that I'm making up about it and why I never think about it consciously, but ultimately I practice it, right? Like I embrace things that make me more efficient.
Yeah. Right at the beginning of this conversation, you explained how you pay a lot of importance to words.
Mm,
And I love that because one of the things that I've learned from the Values Jam experience is that we don't look beyond the label
mm,
often, and that's why probably for both of us efficiency is like whereas we've had a wonderful conversation about it and we've highlighted some things that are great about efficiency at the right time in the right place. and
mm.
and for me, what I'm going to do differently, I'm going to look up fable because I'm my mind is blown away by what you were describing. I'm a bit scared about it being able to read everything that I've got on my laptop and where it might go, but maybe I should put that to one side.
Yeah,
Um,
trust.
yeah.
Trust. Yeah.
So, Didi, that's it. You're a qualified values jammer now, and thank you for a wonderful conversation. I was just trying to think. Maybe our conversation was not efficient in terms of what we thought efficiency was at the beginning of our conversation, but actually it was efficient when you look at it through the lens of what we came to agree efficiency could be in a different way.
Exactly. I love that. I love that, Alan. And it was such a joy being here and jamming with you. Thank you for the cards.
You're welcome.
And I'm excited for what's to come
All
with the
right.
junior
Cheers,
cards.
Didi.
Bye, Alan. Bye.